Good evening today, folks. Welcome to episode 26 of Just Conversations, No Interviews. We're going to talk with Tracy Jones today, see what it was like for her to be a psychiatrist, and talk about her journey from Philadelphia to HBCU and all around the world, and the funny things that she has experienced and the serious things that she has experienced on her journey of being a
psychiatrist.
There we go. So, Tracy, how you doing today?
Great.
I want to thank you for taking time out your busy day to come up here and talk with me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. So let's start at the very beginning. So you're born in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did you stay in Philadelphia, or you kind of just migrated around the area?
Born in Philly. Lived in Philly until I was about 5.
Okay.
And then moved to Willingboro, New Jersey.
Okay.
Then moved to Sewell, New Jersey.
Okay.
Then moved out to Michigan because of my dad's job.
Okay.
And stayed there until I graduated high school. Then went to Howard University in D.C.
So you went to HBCU?
Yes.
And how was your experience at HBCU?
Wonderful.
Wonderful?
Yeah, it was.
What year was that? Like what class?
I'm going to have to date myself now. Thank you very much.
No, okay. Put like this. Who performed at your homecoming? Yeah, you remember that?
No. I will say I went to Howard in '84. Yes, 1984. Okay. It was wonderful. One of the things that really stands out for me from attending Howard University was there were professors that looked like me. And, living in Farmington Hills, Michigan, it's a predominantly white suburb. My family was definitely in the minority when we moved out there. And so to go from that to going to a campus where you are surrounded by brown students, brown professors, it was incredibly validating.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's rewind it. So your father was in farm. So was he like a auto worker, was it UAW or something? Was he blue collar or white collar?
No, my dad was in pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
And so he was in that field for decades.
Okay.
And he had an opportunity that involved him moving out to Michigan. And so he and my mom made the decision to head out.
And what was it like going to those high schools with the kids that didn't look like you? What was it? Was it like a social experience every day, or was just that everybody was chilling?
For the most part, folks were welcoming.
Okay.
I remember when we moved into the neighborhood, I still remember the mom of one of the first people I met. She came over and introduced herself, and I think she had a plate. She had a plate of food, and she said, "We just want to welcome you to the neighborhood." And it was, again, our experiences in Farmington Hills were for the most part positive.
Oh, that's good.
I made friends in junior high and high school. I'm still in touch with some of those same friends. And again, there were people who I'll say were somewhat apprehensive about diversity.
That happens.
Yeah, they made their opinions known in ways large and small.
Okay.
But being blessed with the parents that my brother and I had, we were well equipped to handle the nonsense.
Whatever they came when you were ready for. Okay. So you go to Howard. And what was your major when you went to Howard?
Microbiology.
Jesus. And what made you?
I wanted to go to med school.
Yeah. What made so you knew since like what age did you know what field and what profession you were going to be?
When I was 10.
You was 10?
I read a child age appropriate biography of Elizabeth Blackwell.
Okay.
And that really inspired me. And that, and also being very curious and wondering about how the body worked, wanting to help people. I remember when I was 10, I went and I told my dad, I'm going to be a doctor.
Wow.
And he said, okay. Now, I had told him I was going to be president. And he also said, okay. But again, being a doctor stuck.
Okay. No, that's amazing. And so growing up, watching, let's say if you watch TV and stuff like that at that time, did you ever watch the Cosby Show? Like, was that like an inspiration to you, like seeing like the Huxtables and stuff, or like their dynamic, or?
I was, let's see. When we watched the Cosby's, I mean, we were typically watching it as a family, and I was often asked in school, "Is your family like the household?" I said, "Well, sort of. I mean, sort of.
Yeah.
But it was. I don't know if I really had the maturity to understand how momentous that show was.
Okay.
When I look back on it now, in terms of its portrayal of
black family,
black family with, that is prospering, both parents working,
parents in the house,
kids, kids are doing, pretty much just kid stuff.
Yeah.
But when I look back on it now, it's, I think, my gosh, what a show, what a concept. It's sometimes hard to separate the show from the man.
Yeah.
But when I think about the show itself and how profound it was, absolutely.
That's good. Yeah, because I'm like, wow, that's so. But you wasn't inspired by the Cosby Show. It was a good show. It was a good template of what you saw as a person growing up. So we fast forward, you graduated from Howard, and now you decided to go to Michigan State. And this time you decided to get your just further your studies in Michigan State. So what did you major in while at Michigan State?
Well, once I was in medical school, that's the track that you're on. You go through a curriculum that is designed to prepare you to go on the floors, care for patients.
Okay.
So it's once you decide for med school, it's one track.
Okay. And how was your experience at Michigan State? Was it more so like, this is all business now, this is the money on the ground, I'm not playing around, like this is, I got to get here and get out of here as soon as possible?
My experience at Michigan State was, well, number one, I have vivid memories of the classes never being closed or postponed. It didn't matter how much snow was on the ground.
You had to go.
You had to go. So I have vivid memories of walking over to Fee Hall for any class you can imagine, and the snow was on either side of me, and you still have to go. Michigan State, I'm really glad that I went to that medical school, because one thing that they emphasized was looking at the entire individual. We were forbidden from talking to a classmate or talking to a supervising doctor about a patient in terms of what their illness was. So we didn't say, this is the guy in room 512, he's got hepatitis. We were taught to say, this is Tom, and he's from Livonia, and he's got a wife, and and he's in the hospital because he has hepatitis.
Oh, so everything had to be like personal.
Yeah, it was a biopsychosocial approach to...
Biopsychosocial approach. Make sure y'all put that at biopsychosocial approach.
Yeah, it was because, again, we are the sum of more than our parts. We're human beings. We're human beings when we're healthy. We're human beings if we are ill. And so what MSU did was teach generations of healthcare providers to look at their patients as human beings.
Wow. Does that still happen in your profession now? Or is it more like people being lined out and just becoming like, hey, give him 30 pills, give him 40 pills? Or is it still like people taking the approach that you learned about at Michigan State University?
There are still providers who are being trained to this day to look at the whole individual.
Okay.
And again, with the press of medicine, there are healthcare providers now who are often pressured to crank them in, crank them out, crank them in, crank them out. But I hope that even in those brief encounters, patients can come away feeling as if my doctor heard me. I mean, that's the goal. My doctor heard me. My doctor sees me as a whole individual, and this is the plan that we're going to come up with together.
Okay. So in your profession, you focus on behaviors and how to prevent behaviors, or if they prevent them before they even start, or if they do start, how to stop that type of behavior. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, my field focuses on behavioral health or mental health. And again, that can lead, again, if someone is suffering with a particular illness, it can lead to certain behaviors that are a function of that illness. So what my field, as a psychiatrist, I look at what's happening here.
In the brain.
You know, what's happening here, and again, how does that affect what's going on in the rest of your body?
Okay. And then with some of your patients, have you seen that sometimes those things happen from maybe at birth, or is it their environment? So I remember in psychology, when I was in college, it was nature versus nurture. That was a big argument. Where do you stand at being, in this profession, in this field, and being seasoned in it? What is your vantage point that you see in your experience?
I think it's a combination because we know that someone can have a predisposition or a heightened risk of developing a certain illness based on their genetic makeup.
Okay.
So just as, if your mom has brown eyes and your dad has brown eyes, there's a good chance you're going to have, brown eyes. There isn't necessarily that high correlation with certain behavioral health illnesses. But again, we know that if you have a parent, that has a history of anxiety, there's you have a higher likelihood of developing an anxious disorder over the course of your life. If you have a parent who has a substance misuse issue, there's a higher chance that you might have substance misuse issues just based on your genes.
Okay.
So in terms of the nurture, nature versus nurture, I think that, the nurture piece does play a role. If you have a parent who grapples with depression and you see that parent become nearly incapacitated because of their depression, that can become your model in a way of, okay, this is what it's like when someone's depressed. So that might be how your depression manifests.
Oh, wow. So then you have these clients. Now, have you always practiced in Philadelphia, or you practice all around the country?
No, I started my practice here in Philadelphia, okay. But I've worked in various centers. I've worked in Chester. I've worked in Villanova as a function of the work that I've done working in various agencies.
Okay, so have you ever had in your career like a great breakthrough with somebody? Like you've had people who you're like, I was really able to break through with these people and really help them steer their life on the correct track, or better track than when you first met them, when they may have came in there guns a-blazing, and for lack of a better word, they might have just came in there kind of, erratic, and then you were able to, over a while, talk to them and help them figure out a different path than the path they were on when you first met them.
I have. I've worked with patients who didn't have a name for what they were going through.
Oh, wow.
One example is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. I've diagnosed that in many adults over the course of my career, and these are people that didn't have any really inkling that there was a problem. But they were either self-labeling or externally labeled as lazy, clumsy, not intelligent. I've talked to people who've been in tears in my office about that they tried so hard to study and they couldn't get the material down, or it took them so long to get papers done, so much longer than their peers. And so to be in a position where, I can hear the history and hopefully understand the narrative and say, I think this is what's going on. Why don't we try these wellness elements to see if they work? And then when they work, it feels incredible.
Okay. So when you diagnose a patient, do you rather go through the talking avenue first, or do you rather prescribe medication? What's the first defense, or the first way you try to treat a person when they come to you?
Gather a history.
Gather the history.
Because from listening to a patient's narrative, that helps me to develop an idea of what I believe is, okay, what's the diagnosis? What's the problem? And then from the diagnosis, you begin to design the blueprint for the wellness plan.
Okay.
So far, no one's going to come into the office and for 5 minutes and say, I think I need X. Again, and I have no problem with patients saying, hey, I saw this on television. I think this might be what's going on with me. I have no problem with people bringing that information in. But I think it's important to have a full dialogue in terms of a full conversation. Okay, well, what is happening? What have you noticed over time? Have you tried this to help the problem? Have you tried that to help the problem?
Okay. That's interesting. So now, what about so how long does it take for you with a patient? Do you usually treat them for like 3 months, 6 months, a year? Or some people it's been like an ongoing thing for
all scenarios. All scenarios.
So it's never a punch out list. It's just I want to just keep working with this person until they're healed. So whether it's a day or 10 years, whatever it is, you're here for. You're here
yes.
for the person.
Yes. There was one patient I met with her years ago, and she suffered with anxiety, and one of the big anxiety producers for her was her wedding, because she was so afraid that she was going to freak out before she had to take her vows, just really afraid. And so we talked about it and tried different medication treatments, and then she let me know she got married. And the wedding went beautifully.
Okay.
And then I didn't see her anymore. So that was it was more of a problem focused length of care, which is fine. I mean, sometimes people come in for 6 months, a year, 10 years. It really depends on the nature of the concern.
Okay. Now, as in your profession, do you ever take this stuff home with you? Are you able to decompress it and leave it in the office? Be honest, please.
Absolutely, yes. I'm usually able to shut the door on the office.
Okay.
There are times where I do, I have concern about certain patients. I've learned the hard way that worrying does not change the outcome. So, if I tell myself that I've done A, B, and C, that allows me to sleep at night.
Okay. So you won't. Okay. So you do the best that you can with it, and it's no reason to worry and try to figure out what should I have done better, because you did at that moment. You did the best. You had the best solution that you could possibly think of.
Yeah, and part of the fun part of doing
this is fun.
It is the fun part of medicine is that you have a chance to rethink and think. Let me think about that. And I've doubled back to patients and said, I slept on this, and this is what I was thinking. And many patients welcome that kind of exchange, because we do often think of a problem one way, and then as that information marinates, you start to think about other solutions.
So how is it like breaking? It's funny because as a black man growing up in Philadelphia, I noticed that like a lot of black men, like one thing we're extremely defensive, and I had a crazy moment this week where I couldn't get through a certain problem. I couldn't get through a certain problem, and instead of me just like, hey, I'm just having a bad day. It's a bad day for this problem. Let me just put it to the side. I tried to fight through the problem, and through me fighting through the problem, I actually started cursing out the people around me that was trying to help me, and I had the big blow up to the point where I couldn't. I was like outside of my body, like just going crazy at people. And when I thought about it, how distasteful that was of me, and I just was like, wow, like, oh, you really had a moment. I had to really go back and apologize to the people that I snapped on. And I just was like, wow, like, it doesn't take a lot. And I don't know if it's because of being in the city, being a black man. I don't know what it is, but like sometimes we get triggered like that. And there's nothing that really stopped that trigger, because once it starts going, even though in my mind, they're like, yo, you going too far. I was already on that road going down that hill. And it was like, I couldn't even grab myself. And people who know me and never see me act like that would be looking like, oh my God, you do that too? And it just was amazing, because I wonder, like, when you come up against, those people that got the defensive mechanisms up, and how do you break through those defensive mechanisms? Are you always able to break through those defensive mechanisms? Like a guy be like, I ain't got no problem, ain't nothing wrong with me, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, you get those type of people sometimes. So how do you like try to get through that?
Well, I say the quiet part out loud, which is, not sure why you're here either. But what guided you to make the appointment? What led up to you making the phone call? Mm-hmm. And starting small. And I don't think it's my job to say, well, you must have a problem because you're here. I mean, that doesn't get us in place. It doesn't help. But again, understanding that, when someone is very defended, I'm on a trust walk with that person. And there's no reason why they should trust me. They don't know me.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if I'm able to convey, we're going to try to figure out what led to you making the appointment. Okay. What led up to that? And perhaps taking a couple of steps back and walking toward, okay, what brought you here? Sometimes that approach can be helpful.
Okay. So the type of personalities that you see on a daily, what are they, like A personalities or like a spoiled personality? What type of personalities do you happen to come across the most?
I'm called the melting pot.
The melting pot?
The melting pot. I'm very blessed in that, I like working with my patients. Okay. I'm very, very fortunate in that regard. Have I had some standouts over the course of my career? Yes, absolutely. And from those standouts, I'm hoping that I was able to help them for the time that we worked together.
So, you're in this profession and you work with like 5 days a week, 7 days a week, on call 7 days a week, or are you like how does your schedule work?
Well, I'm on call for myself. I'm a solo practitioner, so it's me in the answering service. Unless I'm going to go away, in which case I'll ask a colleague to cover for me. So
your hours are pretty much anytime. Like if some of your people have problems, they can call you at any time?
Well, if I have a patient that's running into an acute concern, I encourage them to contact the answering service. And that way, they can leave a message, but if it's something urgent, my answering service is excellent at reaching out to me.
Okay. So in your downtime, when you have to decompress from this business at some point, I'm quite sure you have to
Yes, absolutely.
What are like your hobbies like?
Well, before COVID-19.
We can go before COVID and current, because it's still...
I used to go to the museums quite a bit.
All over the country, or just...
No, here in Philly. I mean, I enjoyed traveling. I would like to go back to Greece at some point, because it was just beautiful. It was amazing. The food was awesome. I also enjoy window shopping.
Window shopping?
Nowadays, that's Amazon shopping. But,
okay. So you just buy and put it in your cart but never purchase it?
Oh, I purchase it.
Oh, you purchase it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not window shopping.
I have a huge wish list. But
if you're purchasing, that's actually shopping.
Yeah, I do window shopping. And I enjoy reading.
What are you reading? Are you reading anything right now?
I'm not reading a lot right now, except the Washington Post. That's pretty much all I'm reading.
So you shop on Amazon and you like the Washington Post. That's both of Bezos' companies, just to let you know.
I understand. I'm going to claim that I'm his cousin at some point.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey.
I'm going to claim some sort of relation. What else do I like to do for fun? I like to cook. I like to collect recipes. Okay. Shopping. Yeah, I think that's about it.
That's about all your hobbies?
That's all that's coming to mind.
A glass of wine after work or something?
A very small one.
Very small one?
Yeah, I have to keep my primary care doc happy, so a very small one.
Your primary doc care happy?
My primary care, my doctor.
Oh, your doctor. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we can't be on record saying I'm sloshing back bottles of wine. He will track me down.
It's understandable. So traveling to Greece, you ever been like to Africa or anything like that?
No, I haven't been to Africa yet.
So HBCU student, and you went to Europe before you went to Africa.
Yes.
I don't think your professors would be happy about this one. Now, I don't know.
Perhaps they will. Perhaps they might cut me some slack.
Try Ghana. Here's amazing over there. Should put that on your list somewhere.
That's the deal.
Next to Paris, Greece, Ghana right there, right after that. That's a pretty good interview, though. It's a pretty good interview. So now, like, everybody has like this big push on mental health. It's like in every song, every show, every discussion, everything. Mental health. By you being in this field, are you happy because of that? Because I know 20 years ago, mental health was kind of taboo. Talking about 20 years ago. So now is it easier to talk about now, or it's kind of like commercialized and everybody's like now? Some people being lazy, like just trying to hide behind mental health. I mean, or is it like everybody's like, no, hey, we all have problems. Who do you think you're running into now?
From where I sit, there is still a significant taboo.
Still taboo?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I think there are some people that feel freer now to say, hey, I'm seeing a therapist, but there are still people that carry a great deal of shame around of talking about it. There are still many people that I think are sitting quietly or in distress.
Suffering in silence.
And still suffering. Yeah.
Wow. It's crazy. I didn't think that would be your answer. I thought you'd be like, no, people started talking. But you're saying it's still like people still trying to hide and don't want to admit to being, hey, I'm weak right now. I have a problem. You don't get that too often. As much as you think it should.
Not as much as I think it should be. No. I think if we're able to talk about, anxiety, depression, trauma, the way that we do, Pepto-Bismol, then I think we will have made it.
Okay.
But it's easier to advertise Pepto-Bismol than it is to advertise medications that you take for mental health concerns.
Now, in your profession, do you see that some people like actually kind of cause their own problems and then try to hide behind the diagnosis, or some people just like, hey, now that this is really what's going on. Like, so it's almost like you see a criminal sometimes and they did something. They say, oh, I did it because of this. Mm-hmm. But their symptoms they're trying to say, or their condition. They're trying to use it to cover up that they just made a bad decision at this point and they're just trying to get out of it.
Short answer is yes. I've seen that over the course of my career, but I think it's important though to differentiate what factors are involved in criminality. And again, to what degree are those informed by behavioral health issues? To what degree might trauma inform criminality? Because for many folks that are incarcerated, a lot of them have a significant trauma history. Mm-hmm. And so we know that trauma impacts brain chemistry. And so that might wind up affecting some of the decisions that you make. So, is trauma like a carte blanche excuse? No, but I think that
it could be a factor.
I think it hopefully can be factored in.
So with saying that, so you went to HBCU school, so of course you know African American history, and you know about slavery, Middle Passage, and things like that. Mm-hmm. Then you come up to Jim Crow and things like that. Mm-hmm. So do you think that like a lot of people in the African American community are still suffering the mental trauma from from the things that happened generations ago? Do you think that trauma is still being passed down to this day? Do you even think about that sometimes? Like
absolutely.
And do you think it's being passed down since?
Yes. Yes. The self-hatred that some of us suffer with.
Yes.
That's a definite artifact of slavery. You could even argue that black-on-black crime is an artifact of slavery.
Now, black-on-black crime is a weird thing to me. Because for me, it's almost like, no, it's two-headed. It's a two-headed monster for me, right? One thing is just black people shouldn't become black people, right?
Yes.
But if we go to like some of those small towns in a place like probably Michigan or even Pennsylvania, it's a town of all white people. It's white crime, but nobody calls it white crime. It's just Bob shot Tom, Tom shot Bob. As soon as it's Hanif shot Sharif, it's black and black. So sometimes I just hate labels they put on stuff. Sometimes, you know, crime is definitely a thing of proximity. It's who you live around, who you be around. That's when we're going to harm and endanger.
Yes.
So you know, but yes, I think black and black crime is definitely a part of the trauma that has been installed in us. You know, going back from slavery, Jim Crow to present day. So yeah, that's a funny question. You know, it's a multi-layered question.
Yeah, I understand your point as well. But can you imagine a world where we are not caught up in complexion? We're not caught up in grade of hair. We're not caught up in any of that. You know, because for us not to have that part of our mental burden, I mean, can you imagine what we could do?
Yeah.
You know, boggles
leaps and bounds. Yeah, leaps and bounds.
Boggles the mind.
Yeah. That's deep because, you know, sometimes we had certain leaders that tried to push that agenda, and for whatever reason, they were either killed or cast away or all types of stuff. Like, so it's a touchy subject for me. Like for me, because I have like I didn't go to a HBCU. I actually was schooled in Black history from the time I was born. So I have a very strong understanding of the greatness before slavery, and then where we landed after slavery. You know, from the 1800s up to present day. So I don't think being black is a curse. Actually, I know it's a gift. I know it's a great thing. But I don't get tied up into the negative or the positive, because every day Sharif got to get up and be the best Sharif that he can possibly be before I ever get stuck on the color part. You know, but I do know that being black is a wonderful thing for me. It's a wonderful thing. So yeah, to live in a world where we weren't all fighting against each other over some minimal stupid things would be great. But we just don't live in that world right now, you know. Right now we live in a world where you have to protect yourself at all costs. I mean, let's just look at it like this. At one point, you know, I'm in the real estate and I own properties, and the worst lawsuits I ever had were from people who I was trying to help, who were either in a bad situation. Both times, people who were in bad situations on their way to being homeless, and each one of those people sued me in ways that you couldn't imagine. So it's just, you know, it's just funny of like, you know, it's just how the business is. So I remember like we actually met through real estate, and you were at that point where I was at with some of my properties at one point where I said, man, you know what, I don't care, I don't want nobody in here, I'm just gonna pay the mortgage and I'll figure it out later. And I remember, you know, we were introduced and I heard your story and I was like, you know what, I think I can help this lady. I'm quite sure I can help her in this business, because it's like, you know, how you are with mental health, how I'm in real estate, like I do this, like, you know. But you know, we get in these businesses and we try these things, and it's like almost like you get in it and people make it sound so easy to do. Like, all you're gonna do is you're gonna buy a property, you'll be a millionaire tomorrow, and then so forth and so on. And it's far distinct from the truth. So how was your experience?
Oh boy. Yeah, I wish it had happened like that, like it does on HGTV. But not meant to be. There were times of joy and there were times of difficulty in terms of maintaining the property, you know, working with tenants, you know, and that's at best a mixed bag. Yeah,
because you never know who you're going to get. They never show up and say, hey, I'm a piece of crap tenant and I'm not going to pay, and you're going to have to take me down in court in 3 months. It never goes like that.
Nope. But, you know, so yeah, I did reach a point of frustration, because one thing I did learn in that is you really need a good team. You need a team of people if you're going to manage even one property, because it is potentially either a full-time or a pretty big part-time job.
32 hours a week.
You know, to do that kind of work. And, you know, it's not all glitz and glamour, to be sure. No business is. But despite that experience, I still get very excited about the idea of branching out into real estate. It's still something that I want to do, but I would do it differently.
Differently. Okay.
Yeah, I would do it differently.
So you love the investment. Mm-hmm. It's just a different type of groundwork once you really get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will circle back.
Oh no! Mm-hmm. I hope my company can help you when you circle back.
I will be sitting on your doorstep. I'll be sitting on your doorstep. Believe me.
Now, is there anything else you want to tell people about the profession? How to get in contact with you? If they need to talk to anybody, talk to you. You can put your information up.
Certainly. My office is located in South Philadelphia. The website is psychphilly.com, psychphilly.com. If you go to psychphilly.com, you will be able to read up about my practice. We also now offer talk therapy services in addition to medication management and medical marijuana assessments. So if you're interested in taking a first step toward wellness, I hope that you'll reach out.
I got a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Chen.
So I heard a statement once that is, if you're depressed, you live in the past. If you have anxiety, that means you're living in the future. Is there truth to that?
I think that's, good question. When I think about depression, I think about people being overwhelmed or somewhat incapacitated by what is either happening around them or out of the blue. Because I think of depression and I think of anxiety as chemical reactions. And so if people are anxious, it's because they're concerned about something that is going to happen. What's going to happen at work tomorrow? Am I going to have a car accident? Is my baby going to be okay tomorrow? So anxiety, I think if you want to try to slice it up, then yeah, it can be being worried about tomorrow. Depression, I think it can involve the past and tomorrow, because one of the hallmarks of depression is pessimism and hopelessness about the future. Why should I even get up? What's the point? Why should I even get out of bed? Why should I even take a shower? What's the point? So I think that depression can be, again, tied to dread about the future, but also maybe guilt about what has happened beforehand.
That's bars. We're gonna cut that and make that an Instagram thing right there. That was the deep one right there.
Thank
you. Bars. But so again, this is Tracy Jones. She's gonna do everything she said. We're gonna have her information down here on the screen. When you watch it, you'll see everything up there, so you can contact her. For those of you that need the medical marijuana, the talk therapy, or just regular therapy. Do you accept HMOs and stuff like that? No. Okay. So they come with their cheese. So, but no, actually, is a very good woman. It's a pleasure that she even came and blessed us on this couch today. Again, this is episode 26. Thank you for tuning in. And it's Sharif Hanks with Just Conversations, No Interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.